Hello and welcome to this Story Behind the Stories, your weekly look at the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. Thank you very much for taking a little bit of your time and spending it here with us on NAC TV. I'm Eoin Devereux, reporter with the Banner Press, welcoming you to this week's edition of the program, and I'm joined this week by publisher Ken Waddell. Ken, good to have you here this week.
Good to see you back. Glad you're feeling better.
Well, again, I'll let you all in on a little bit of background here. This week's edition of the Story Behind the Stories is always a little bit of a discovery for you if you haven't been able to pick up a copy of the newspaper, a physical copy anywhere in the Westman area or on mywestman.ca. It's also going to be a moment of discovery for me because, as Ken said, I was not around for the most part of this week. I was out with something. I don't know what. It may have been COVID. It may not have been. I tested multiple times for COVID, tested negative multiple times for COVID, but I was still feeling something. So I don't know whether it was bronchitis. I don't know whether it was a flu. I don't know whether it was a witch's curse. Who knows? It's most likely a witch's curse. I've really messed over the witch's craft over the years, and they're gonna come back at me with a vengeance. So
Halloween's coming.
I believe it may have been a witch's curse and probably deserved, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it was deserved. It was deserved.
It's going to be interesting because, quite honestly, we have to give a shout out to Casper Werahan, who we gave a break for this week's edition of the program, but they did all the heavy lifting when it came to putting stuff together on the pages. So I'm going to be opening up this newspaper and, this is where it happened and this is what happened. Oh, this is kind of interesting. So it's a nice change of pace for me. Maybe it'll be a nice change of pace for you. So let's start, as we always do. We'll throw first off to the front page here. Gladstone pumpkin truck hits the road. A beautiful sort of visual example of the season. I mean, puppies and babies always go over well, and we've got a baby on the front page of this week's edition, Ken. So hopefully that'll hot off the presses, and hopefully a lot of people will pick that up.
Well, not only is it a great picture, it's a great story because it's Gladstone is where these folks are from, but this picture was actually taken in Kenton because they decided to take their pumpkin truck on a little longer road trip than the Plymouth and Gladstone that they've been doing, and they went out to Kenton to see Grandma, and so they Jessica got this picture when the truck was in Kenton, so we used it in the Verdun paper as well. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
All right, and it's a wonderful sort of example of just how the season's going, the fall, the harvest, and all those sorts of things. And of course, as Ken said, heading into Halloween, people like to turn the pumpkins into jack-o'-lanterns and whatnot. I prefer pumpkin pie, to be quite honest myself. I mean, I think that's the best use of the pumpkins. Yeah. If I have a personal favorite, it's pumpkin pie. Although the weird thing is, though, and maybe this is just my upbringing up north, because we didn't have farming up north, the Safeway, for some reason, the Safeway pumpkin pie, which is full of chemicals and whatnot, I always find is the best one out there. Call me crazy, call me a little unusual. Maybe I still got the fever. I don't know. But I always loved that this time of year for that. And stuffing.
Pumpkin pie and stuffing.
Yeah. And that is true because Thanksgiving will be coming up, and hopefully you'll be able to have a fun and festive Thanksgiving yourself with you and yours. Let's skip into the actual meat and potatoes. Ooh, meat and potatoes with stuffing and pie. That'd be all right, too. But the actual meat and potatoes of the newspaper, we're going to go into page 2. And before I went off the rails and got a little sick, I was able to cover a few events late last week. And one of them I was very glad to be able to attend was the official grand opening for the New Hope Health Center in downtown Neepawa. Now, if you've been driving around the community, you've seen this building, you've seen the renovations that have been going on. They have been open for a time, getting things it's been a soft opening, as it were, getting things organized and all that, and they were able to get things officially kicked off. It was last week with an official ceremony, an official ribbon cutting. For the longest time, it was located in rural area, just outside, about 13 minutes or so away from Neepawa. They've decided it serves the best interest to come into the community, into the town, as it were, And judging from the amount of people that were there, Ken, I think they made the right decision.
Well, Lisa and her son have been building this business for years. Well-known customers from all over Manitoba, and it's good to see them expand, relocate, and now that people will have a chance to come more readily right into Neepawa, so there'll be spin-off there as well. But I do know that her customers come from far and wide. They have a tremendous following with their health center, and so it's really good to see them expanding and developing the way they are.
That's right, Lisa Davies, who was the owner, but now Nathan has stepped in as the primary owner. Lisa is still on board, helping to maneuver the business, as it were, but Nathan is the captain. And if you look actually on the page, Lisa did something very nice, gave him a captain's hat as part of the celebration. It's like, "You're the captain now, Nathan," type thing, which was very nice and apropos. And I spoke with both of them about that. They're very much looking forward to being able to serve their community and serve the region as a whole. I mean, so they're looking forward to the opportunity. And it's great to be able to see a business like that see value in coming into the community of Neepawa itself in a physical sort of way and being a part of it and still representing all of beautiful Plains. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. If you get an opportunity, don't forget it's downtown over on Mountain, just right close to the now former Harris Pharmacy building. But don't worry, you're still going to be able to find Harris Pharmacy just a little further down the way, as it were. You can explore the downtown core of Neepawa a little bit more, a little bit better now, because that segues quite nicely into our next story, the official ribbon cutting for the brand new facility of Harris Pharmacies, just a little further down the way there. This is a story we've talked about many times on the pages of the Banner Press and right here on the program, the story behind the stories. So to finally be able to sort of celebrate that final grand opening, I think is fantastic.
Yeah, for people who are familiar with Neepawa, maybe remembering back a few years, the new Harris Pharmacy is where one of the former Home Hardwares was, the one that unfortunately burnt down, or right beside the former Co-op grocery store, which of course now for a number of years has been the Neepawa Ministries Center or Salvation Army, their thrift store. So there's a big parking lot between the two of them there. So there's lots of parking and a good location. And I think everybody's quite thrilled with it all. Just as an aside, speaking casually with their Marilyn Crew, our economic development officer for Neepawa, she pointed to the two empty spots now on the street where Harris Pharmacy was. There's my next challenge, to get somebody in there. So I know that there is talks underway for possibly selling that building, and I've got to track down another story, economic development too, is I believe the curb block has been sold on. So there's some development going on there.
We've talked a little about that behind the scenes here at the office. We've seen activity that's been going on. The curb block, if you are unfamiliar, if you're not in Neepawa proper, is a section of older classic housing and buildings, as it were, between the Roxy Theatre and the town office.
Yeah.
So it's on a main primary street. So to hear that there might be some action happening on that is a big deal. It's going to be interesting to see how that develops moving forward. And again, it's going to be interesting to see how the former Harris Pharmacy location moves going forward. Let's focus back on the new location. I got to admit, I haven't had a chance to go in there yet, now that it's all said and done. Monday I came in, I was feeling fine, a little hoarse, and they had scheduled that they were going to do their official ribbon cutting on the Monday. But as happens with many events, technology decided, some of the technical issues that were surrounding Harris Pharmacy to get everything organized weren't done quite yet on Monday, so they had to reschedule it. And by the time they rescheduled it, I was under the weather and I was out. I was
Sorry.
literally out, like knocked out.
Harris Pharmacy couldn't open, so you got sick anyway.
Yeah. if you'd been open one day, Harris Pharmacy, I'd have been fine. No. But no, actually, my housemate, she was able to get a bunch of drugs from Harris Pharmacy, so we've already contributed into their grand opening with that. All of the bells and whistles to sort of to keep me relatively, coherent. Well, no more, no less coherent than normal. But I'm looking forward to being able to go in there myself and to see it with my own eyes. I had a sneak preview a couple months ago when there was still work to be done on the walls, on the roof. None of the shelves, in essence, were up there. None of the product was out there at all. But I'm very much looking forward to seeing it because it's one of those things that it's developed from nothing. There was nothing there, and then they started constructing it, and then you started to see the vision that they saw. So it's very interesting to me to see how this has developed, and I'm looking forward to sort of popping in there, hopefully in the near future, but hopefully not for any cold or cough medications, because I'm pretty stocked up on those right now, Ken. I got plenty of those left over.
Oh dear.
There's a lot of good news here in terms of economic viability for the community of Neepawa that we have already shared with you, and this is another nice story we're able to share with you. One of our corporate partners, a community business that sees value in giving back to the community. In terms of High Life Foods, they're based out of the Brokery, but they also have very important roots right here in Neepawa, as well as Killarney, and they decided to assist in those communities that they serve already. In terms of, for Neepawa, $15,000 donation is going to be going towards Neepawa's new Habitat for Humanity program. If you're unfamiliar with Habitat for Humanity, they are a program that build houses for families economically challenged in one way or another. That could be everybody nowadays, but that's a little too much opinion for this show today. But it's a great program. If you've heard about it, you've seen the value they've done in other communities. They're right here in Neepawa right now, establishing themselves with their very first build. And this 15,000, Ken, I think is going to go a long way to helping establish a positive trend for them.
Yeah, and I was talking to the coordinator for that, or one of the committee members, pardon me, John Lavich, that was at another fundraiser, the barbecue they held at Co-op, and he said he's working on suppliers to try and get donations of lumber. They're trying to get donations from the various tradespeople, and they're going to start building fairly soon. But of course, the person who is going to get the house, they have to provide labor as well. That's been the secret of that program over the years.
Yeah.
And if anybody knows the history of former President Jimmy Carter, he's been involved with Habitat for Humanity for decades. And even though he's around 100 years old now, he's not able to work anymore, but he was well into his 90s. He was still out there banging nails for Habitat projects around the country, so including occasionally in Canada.
Say what you will for his tenure in the United States as President of the United States, whether you agreed or disagreed with how things were going when he was president, the man stepped up and continued to step up for long afterwards. You don't see many, not even just American politicians in general, step up and be that generous in that way. So Jimmy Carter goes hand in hand with Habitat for Humanity. I think the reason I knew about Habitat for Humanity, the very first time I ever learned of them, was learning that Jimmy Carter, who was probably still about 60, 65 at the time, was doing all this work. It was like, wow, that is so impressive to be doing that and to be giving back in that way. It's not just famous people like Jimmy Carter. There are each individuals in each community that give in that way. And now Neepawa has that as well. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing how that all transpires moving ahead, not just with this first build, but with continuing year-over-year builds to be able to create affordable housing for families right here. So this is a story glad to be able to share with you, and glad to be able to continue to share with you for years to come. We're just flying right through here. Now, we've got this one right here. We've talked a little bit about it. Now, this one is one that Casper was able to put together for us. Very appreciative of that. It is on page 6 of this week's edition of the Banner Press, right next to Helen Drysdale and Helen's weekly recipe. Always a fan favorite for many of our readers. So it's Cassandra Grown, I believe is how it's pronounced,
Yep.
appointed as the new director for recreation services right here in the town of Neepawa. If you're a consistent reader of the paper, you know that the former director, Nicole Cooper, has moved on to other endeavors. She had been doing that for several years. Cassandra has moved in and is very much, from the sounds of it, Ken, looking forward to the opportunity. Not from Neepawa originally, but moved to the community and has become a great part of the community.
Yeah, she and her partner have moved here to Neepawa. Her partner is working in healthcare, and so she was happy to get work here. She was commuting from Minnedosa, but they live just down the street here from us, and in the newest apartment block to the north of us here in the Neepawa Press building, about a block north. And so she's happy to be here, and I'm sure her partner, he's happy to not have to commute every day.
One of the most interesting things I found from the article, Ken, as well, is even though she got her initial degree from the University of Manitoba, she got additional training, and I found this interesting, from Harvard.
Wow.
Holy cow. That is impressive as hell. Pardon my language, pardon my French, pardon my English. But it is impressive as hell. You got to call it like you see it.
Yeah, organizational leadership training from Harvard University. That looks good on anybody's resume, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. And again, I think she's going to bring something interesting and a different perspective. That's the important thing, is to be able to bring in different perspectives into a job.
No, stop that. No, not around here. We only have old ideas.
Oh, okay. All right. So
Sorry, no new ideas.
Cassandra,
Sorry, Eoin.
if you can bring in the old ideas that didn't work, or maybe have worked, but didn't work the second time or whatever.
They weren't very good.
Yeah. Well, although we should say that don't take that the wrong way. Nicole did such a tremendous job over the years to be able to create and to move forward on some new innovations and some new opportunities for Neepawa. So we are very thankful that she was able to take that position and take it to a top tier as she was able to, and we wish her well moving forward. So.
Yeah, sorry. I was just being a smart mouth. I wasn't making any disparaging comments about Nicole or the rec department. I was just being, just that in defense of my smart mouth comment, we certainly get a lot of, I don't think we want to change anything ideas. And over the last 35 years, fortunately, a lot of things have changed.
Yeah. If we wanted to disparage somebody or someone, you'd know it. And in fact, I'm going to move this up in the schedule here, Ken, actually, since it segues quite nicely. We've got your column that we wanted to talk about a little bit, and boy, you go in, I think, a little bit here, and to a degree, I think rightfully so.
Well, the government came out with a new energy plan. And of course, as soon as I see the word energy or climate change or emission controls or any of these buzzwords, keywords, I just sort of heavy sigh. But the one in particular that I take exception with is that they're going to try and do a bunch of stuff with wind energy and increase the amount of electricity. And that's all well and good. But I just wish they would look back at history. Manitoba Hydro, as I said in one of the lines in the story, has been politically squeezed over the years. And I can rattle off several, and I put 3 in the column here, of times when I think Manitoba Hydro was improperly politically squeezed into something that they didn't want to do and shouldn't have done. The most famous being the relocation of the Bipole 3 line, which cost $1 billion or $1.5 billion more dollars than it was supposed to. All these wonderful ideas that politicians and bureaucrats come up with, they forget to tell you who's going to pay for them. You and I are, on our hydro rates or on our taxes or on both. And so I take a bit of a strip off of the government on this one. They want to, when they say a renewed focus on energy security with stronger protections in place for procurement and data management. That means let's have more bureaucrats. Let's have more studies. Let's pile up more stats and confuse people with instead of making common sense, straightforward decisions. There's some good stuff in there. There's some good stuff in their plan, no question. But well, then you can tell when the politicians are trying to baffle you, and when they talk about data procurement, that's a key word for obfuscation, confusing the topic. Yeah, I was on a rant there. Sorry.
Well, no. Again, I think the majority of people in Manitoba, the majority of voters in Manitoba, see that there needs to be a plan put in place towards more clean energy. Unfortunately, they felt a little burned over the previous administrations, current administrations and previous administrations. Like, I don't look at this as you're wearing a blue tie or you're wearing an orange tie type thing. It's not a PC issue. It's not an NDP issue primarily. It's both of them. This is something that's been going on for decades. They've been coming up with these buzzwords. They've been coming up with these plans, but there's been no follow through. Like, I remember 20 years ago, I was just a cub reporter out of Brandon, and I was covering all the anger and all the upset and all the frustration that was going on related to Bipolar 3 when it was just getting off the ground. They were saying it was an issue. They were saying it's going to cost more. They were saying it was going to cost 600, I think 600 million is the one that popped up, but it turned out to be more than 600 million. As Ken said, it turned out to be up towards $1 billion. East side, west side, they went with the plan that was the wrong plan. They cut through prime, and again, if you think I'm negative towards this type of stuff, they cut through prime farmland. Quite honestly, farmland that could have been used in a more valuable way, as opposed to going the other way and cutting through forest, which again has extreme value, but would have had less direct impact to everyone, in my opinion.
Yeah.
My opinion could be wrong. Like I said, my opinions on this show, they don't represent the Neepawa Banner Press. They don't represent NACTV. They might not even represent you. Maybe they should. But again, that's what an opinion is. It's an opinion. It's okay to have an opinion. It's okay to be wrong with your opinion. So,
fortunately, in 35 years, I've never been wrong with any of my opinions.
Oh.
Not once.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll agree with you, Ken, but that might be the fever talking. So, you know.
Yeah, just one word or two to that point. Opinions are opinions. They change. Facts shouldn't change. But you do find out more facts as you do more research. Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yeah.
But that's enough of that.
Well, again, you talk about the electric usage as well with the EV vehicles in there also. And I've said this forever. If we can make EVs work in rural Canada, that would be the greatest step forward I think we would ever see. Unfortunately, we haven't seen enough yet to guarantee it. Like, that's what concerns me. Make sure I'm able to drive from Neepawa to Steinbach and back within a normal parameter in the middle of February. And I will be the first one to sign up for an EV.
I think everybody would agree with that.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of, I know I've had lots of, I have a grandson-in-law who works in the towing business, and you'd be amazed how many electric vehicles in January don't make it from a rural town not too far from Brandon into Brandon and back.
Yeah.
They have to be towed or recharged before they go back. That's just not practical.
Yeah.
Just not practical.
But again, having said that, it's good to see major companies such as Ford, GM, Toyota moving forward on these types of things, and not just Elon.
Yeah.
We only got a few minutes left, so we're going to get quickly into the last little bits and pieces here after we're done with our little tirades. We're going to talk a little bit about the Neepawa Titans. They had their home opener recently. If you haven't had a chance to go down there, check your local listings for all the Neepawa Titans broadcasts. They are right here on NACTV. Remember, check your local listings to see what time they'll be playing. And if you do get a chance to see it, you're going to see some pretty good hockey. Because their first 2 games at home, they were able to win both games. First off, their home opener, against the Portage Terriers, about almost 800 people, jam-packed the Yellowhead Center. I was so impressed with the response of people coming out there for that game, and Neepawa stepped up, was able to win that game. A real shootout as well, Ken. If I remember right, a 7-6 win, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. It was just an amazing game, and they did not too badly in the loss. I mean, they lost in a shootout.
And that was a game in Portage La Prairie.
8 shooters or something. Yeah.
Always a tough place for them to play in. And then they came back here and they were up against the defending champions, the Winkler Flyers. Spoiler alert, if you're planning on watching the show, just turn the volume down for about 10 seconds. All right. And they ended up beating the league champions in regulation in another exciting game. So they had 2 big challenges, Ken, and they were able to come through with flying colors.
So we'll see what happens this weekend. Tough game, 2 tough games against Dauphin this coming up weekend, 28th and 29th, but hopefully they'll do well.
That's right. As you're most likely watching this show right now, they could be playing the Dauphin Kings. So keep your eyes peeled once again on the listings to see when that game's going to be broadcast on NAC TV. And it's going to be a tough one. The Dauphin Kings, I think, and the Northern Manitoba Blizzards, a new name for them this year. Last year, they essentially just went by the name the Blizzard, previously known as the OCM Blizzard, but now under new ownership, they are the Northern Manitoba Blizzard. And I've heard some very good things about that roster, and looking at the results they've been able to get so far, they're going to be a team to keep an eye on. So it's going to be tough. The East Division is always a tough battle, Ken, with Steinbach, Winkler, Portage. But this year, I think the West could just be as challenging.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. It's interesting. I'm really interested in see how the PAW or the Northern Manitoba Blizzard do. They play out of the PAW now, not out of OCN, and so it's going to be interesting to see that. I'd love to go up there for a game. It's a bit of a drive, but I'd like to go up there.
Well, once again, there's so many more things we could have talked about this week, but there's only so much time to be able to talk about it. We also got a couple special sections in this week's paper, our monthly Farmers Advocate pages, which are talking a little bit about some of the harvest and some of the things that are going out there right now, and several pages of our special Meet the Teacher feature. Ooh, I'm a poet.
Yeah.
Meet the Teacher feature. And it talks about all the different teachers and all the different locations where they are, introduces them in a sense to their readership throughout the beautiful plains. Yeah.
Well, and also the other divisions too that we cover. There's Rolling River and Pine Creek as well. There's got 4 pages and Turtle River, I believe. Yes, 4 pages of 4 divisions, 4 pages of coverage of the teachers. And thank you to the advertisers for offering a shout out to our teachers and to the school divisions for the work they're doing in our communities. It's good to see.
There's so much more. I wish we had had time for more. There's a special bench that we could have talked about that has been donated to the Yellowhead. There's the pumpkin truck, of course, to Kenton. Looking back, all of these things. That's why you need to pick up a copy of the Banner Press in over 30 different locations throughout Western Manitoba or on mywestman.ca. And always remember, if you have any story suggestions or ideas for us, you can give us a call over at 476-3401 or via email at news@neepawabanner.com. I was completely out last week, so I didn't check the emails, but other people will check it, I promise you. I assure you they will check that if I'm not around. So that's about it for this week. Ken, thanks as always.
Good to be here.
And again, thank you as always for tuning in to the story behind the stories. Have a great week.